Hello, all, and welcome to the Movie Bears podcast. I'm Brad Harris, and along with my fellow co hosts, we review films either current or classic on this show. This week, we are going with something solidly in the current category. We're going to be reviewing Moonfall from director Roland Emmerich. But before we get to that, as well as a bonus Oscar topic, which we're going to talk about, Oscar noms came out today. Let me introduce my wonderful co-host so we can get this thing rocking and rolling. Jim Pugliafico is with us in the virtual studio. Hey, sweetie.
I am here. Love you guys to the moon and back, and we're going to have a fun show today.
I see what you did there, and I loved it. It was
Mhm.
awesome. Will Lindis is with us as well. Welcome, Will. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. I also love you to the moon and back. I was going to make a fall pun as well, so we could get the whole moonfall in there. But you know what? I decided I didn't want to. This is what we're going to do. Just going to keep it simple. We're consistent. We're on the same page. It's moonfall. That's what we're doing.
Yes, indeed. Well, we've definitely got some thoughts on the film to share with all of you this week. And I already see a few folks with us in the live chat, hanging out with us on the live stream. Hello and welcome to you as well. Before we get to our film discussion, though, Oscar nominations came out today, at least today relative to when you're listening to this. Well, no, I guess today would not be relative to when you're listening. February 8th, 2022 is today, and that's when Oscar noms came out. So there you go.
Yeah.
Hopefully that helps you out a little bit. I wanted to chat with you guys for just a few minutes and get some of your thoughts on these noms. We're not going to go through every category or anything like that, but just reactions, hot takes from you guys. What do you think?
Man, Twitter was on fire today. Well, it was actually on fire starting yesterday with the anticipation of the announcements. And, if I don't see this movie in there, then, the Oscars are bullshit. And, I bet you this is going to happen and that's going to happen. But I think that kind of happens every year. But I don't know, for this reason, this year, it seems like there were a lot of strong, hey, guess what? There were strong opinions out on social media. Go figure. But it was interesting to see as the stuff rolled out, as the nominations rolled out, kind of the reactions. And I think, I don't know, for the most part, I think there's maybe been a tiny bit less outrage this year than we've seen in past years. You guys can chime in on that, but I don't know, Will, what were your general impressions of kind of the reaction to the nominations?
Mostly muted positive is what I saw.
Yeah.
I mean, you're always going to see someone who's good. There's always going to be people who take award ceremonies personally and think, if this one film that I specifically like wasn't the one that was also the best film by this awards body that I'm not a part of, then I'm going to take it personally and get upset. And when realistically, this is a celebration of film. It is an honor to be nominated. These are, like the 10 best films of the year, the 5 best directors, whatever it happens to be. At least according to this like aggregate voting body that sort of like rounds off the edges on some of the, the more intense films on either side of it. Yeah, I think most people are pretty happy, mainly because I think most years there's like this impending dread that like, there's certain movies that sometimes kind of get in there and get some Oscar love that maybe weren't the best picks overall. But this year, I don't know, there's some solid picks in there too, a good variety of picks. So no matter where you sit on the fence, there's something to like. And I think that's what I think most people are able to say. Like, yeah, I didn't agree with this, but at least I was excited X happened.
Yeah, it's interesting. Dune walked away with, what was it, 10 or 11 nominations? 10. And from what I've read today, people are super ecstatic about that. But they're also very pissed off because Denis Villeneuve did not get a nomination for Best Director. So there are people who are very, very upset by this right now. Did that tweak you guys at all, knowing how you felt about Dune?
It was a bit notable for me. I mean, but the category is only 5 deep, right? So you've got some great directors in this 5 movie or this 5 nomination set. For me, at least, I don't think there's one that I would necessarily kick out. I'd love to see a 6th spot for Denis Villeneuve to be in there because we love Dune. The good thing about that, though, the silver lining is we're going to get another Dune movie from Denis Villeneuve. So maybe that'll be, when that comes out, that will be the one that kind of propels him to be nominated in that category. Who knows?
That's exactly right. Like, I mean, you look at this category and there's like, there are years when there is a dud that gets nominated, and then that sucks because you know that spot could have gone any number of places. There's no duds here, These are 5 incredibly talented directors who put in very strong directorial work this year. So it's like, who do you dock? Where do you dock?
Yeah.
There are a couple of other directors that I would also put in there. I'm a Denis Villeneuve fan, but
Wes Anderson fan.
Yeah. I think he probably could have been in this category over I probably would have, if I rewrote this, I probably would have dropped one person and probably put Wes Anderson in here. So it's like hard, it's like whatever. There's so many good picks here. Like, what can you get upset about?
A lot of people are upset that Spider-Man No Way Home did not get nominated.
Yeah, I think we kind of come across this every year. There's always the big, especially in the age of Marvel, right? And in DC blockbusters, comic book blockbusters. Generally, they kind of don't get the Oscar love, except for the one exception we had with Black Panther getting nominated for Best Picture the year it came out. Well deserved, I might add. But as a non-comic book fan, I loved Spider-Man No Way Home. Could it have cracked this 10? Yeah, I could see maybe a spot or two where that movie could have fit in here a little bit better than the one that's in there now. But that's just my personal opinion, and these nominations and awards are just so damn subjective, and it's hard to agree. I'm not going to disagree with anybody that says maybe Spider-Man No Way Home maybe deserves a nomination.
Yeah, personal picks. That's why, it's important to remember these are not, award ceremonies are not arbiters of absolute quality, right?
Nope.
They are a representative of bellwether trends within an industry by the artisans who are a part of that industry, as well as the marketing folks who are working with the artisans of that industry. It is not like, you can't look at something and say, these are definitively the 10 best movies of the year. These are the 10 films that were most represented by the different people voting, from makeup to actors to directors to everyone within the industry. And when you average all of that out and put everything into the mix, this is what comes out of it. Look, Spider-Man was not my top. It didn't make my top 25, right? Would I have put it in place of
at least
two of the movies on this list? Absolutely. And I'll say I'm not a Don't Look Up fan. I'm not a King Richard fan. I would have dropped those 2 movies, and I would have put Spider-Man, and also I would have put probably just about anything else in that place too. But I think it is notable there are 10 films nominated, and that's something that's pretty exciting. Most years they have 10 slots available, but they only fill like 8 or 9 of them, leaving some room on the table. I appreciate the fact that they filled the entire ballot. Like, cool. Do that more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, there's a lot of strong categories this year. And I'll admit, I have not seen every single one of the movies and performances that are nominated this year. I've seen probably the majority, but there are some, even on the Best Picture list. There is one maybe that I haven't seen, and there's a few others scattered in.
Austin, it's playing now.
What's that?
Drive My Car. Is that the one? Have you seen it yet?
No, actually, there's 2 then. There's 2.
It's playing right here, right now. Come down, Jim.
Yeah, and I haven't seen Nightmare Alley yet either. So, there's there's just it seems like a really strong, mostly level-headed set of picks. I'm just going to say the one pick that I was the 2 picks that I was really happy with was the movie Flea, which was on my list this year. Made it in Best Animated Feature, Best International Feature, and best documentary feature.
First time that's ever happened.
Yeah, and that's amazing. So I'm behind that, and I'm also behind. In Best Actress, we had Jessica Chastain in The Eyes of Tammy Faye, which was a total surprise for me. But that was another movie that I had in my top 10 episodes. If you listen to that episode, and I thought her performance was great. But that's kind of it. I mean, I don't put a ton of stake in these Oscars. It's just interesting to watch the dialogue happen. As a friend of the show says, remember, folks, this is not the be all and end all of movie selections. This would be a good starting point for people who want to go see movies that are notable this year, but it's not the be all and end all. There's plenty of other movies behind these to see.
It seems like Oscar's being a little kinder to foreign language films on the whole, not making them just sort of stay in foreign language, like that one little category. We've got, again, Drive My Car is up for Best Picture. It's up for Best Director. One of my favorite films of the year. Same with The Worst Person in the World was up for Best Original Screenplay. Yeah, or one of the screenplay. Yeah, Original Screenplay. Cool. That usually doesn't happen. So glad to see a little bit, like it almost seems like Oscar is branching out a little bit more and embracing things that are not just the same kind of like American English language Oscar bait films. Like you can make the case that maybe some of that still exists here, and you'd probably be right, but I do think that it's nice to see that what that definition is expanding a bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, regardless of flubs and snubs or your favorite films getting nominations or not, I think it's great that we have a celebration of film happening, especially with, COVID still raging and all that goes along with going out to the movies or having to track them down on streaming or, however you're consuming film at this point. I think it's great that we're still going strong with this. We still have movies to talk about. So,
and don't forget, the Oscars are not as important as the MBP awards. So when the MBP awards happen,
that's right,
a little bit later this year, that's the one to tune in for. Oscars are sort of like the warm-up show for the thing that we do. So.
Indeed. Well, fellas, we got a movie to discuss. How are you feeling about changing gears a little bit and getting our noses to the pavestone and getting into our film? I don't know what I'm saying.
Let's suit up. Let's suit up and go on this adventure.
Blast off.
Yeah.
Let's
go grab a space shuttle and go.
Let's talk about a movie.
Just be mindful of the gravity of the situation. Okay. All right.
Let's hop in our Lexuses and head to the next movie zone.
All right, folks. Listen, we are going to talk about Moonfall. Spoiler free for about 10 minutes. If you haven't seen the film yet and you're kind of on the fence, you want to know our thoughts, we welcome you to hang around, listen in. If you are with us in the live chat, we'd love to hear your thoughts about the film too. Feel free to share those or even just say hi if you're listening. We will give you fair warning before we open up the can of spoilers. So if you need to step away at that point, you absolutely can do so. Or if you've seen the film or don't care about spoilers, you can continue hanging out with us. But all of that said, here we go. Our discussion of Moonfall. All right. Will, if you don't mind, give us a very brief setup for this film and your initial thoughts. What did you think?
In this Moonfall, in this 2 hour and 10-minute Lexus commercial, Roland Emmerich explores the idea of what would happen if some sort of strange, unexplained, at the onset at least, force pulls the moon off of its orbit around Earth and sends it in a collision course towards Earth. How would that impact life on Earth, and how would the people that live on Earth respond to that? This is a Roland Emmerich movie. This is the guy that gave us Independence Day. This is the guy that gave us The Day After Tomorrow and 2012. And, this is a guy known for making these disaster movies. And this is 100% just another Roland Emmerich disaster movie, down to the wire. This is, go down your checklist. You have the scientist guy who knew it all along, but no one took seriously until the last minute? Yes. Do you have a plucky kind of a man's man who's good at piloting stuff, who has to reconnect with a family member while also saving the world? Yes. It's
Check.
check. Do you have a bunch of B plots with kind of like not really interesting supporting characters, but they're there to give us moments to breathe between what the heroes have to do? Yeah, a lot of that.
Wait. Are we talking about Armageddon?
No. We're talking
Could be.
about. We are talking about Armageddon.
The day after tomorrow.
The day after tomorrow. We're talking about Independence Day, and we're talking
San Andreas.
And look, at least, yeah, all of these movies follow that formula. And Roland Emmerich is like he's the architect for, maybe not the architect. You know, there's certainly versions of this that happened before. You know, he's not the first person to do a disaster movie, but I think that Independence Day sort of like wrote what the template of it looks like now. And this is just a carbon copy of a carbon copy of it. I didn't have fun with this. There were fun moments. Don't get me wrong. I didn't hate it. This wasn't like, this wasn't like a hate watch or anything like that, but it really does feel like ground that I've tread before, but done not as interestingly as the times that I've seen it before. Performances are fine. Patrick Wilson does an okay job. Halle Berry does an okay job. John Bradley does an okay job. Nothing against them. I think the material just wasn't great for them to do much more than an okay job. Some of the effects were fine. Some of them were a little wonky. I don't know. It's fine. It's fine. It's not great. It's not good. But you know what you're getting with it. So if you want exactly this type of movie, it delivers exactly that. So, I wouldn't recommend it. But if this is what you want to see, then yeah, have fun.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the setup and your initial thoughts. Jim, did this movie hit better for you or not as much?
Well, so yeah, this is kind of a weird movie. I think in this day and age, I don't know. I think Roland Emmerich movies are definitely identifiable, from what you see on the screen and kind of the flavor of what you get. This is like one of the most Roland Emmerich movies of all the old Roland Emmerich movies you're going to see. And it's almost like a time capsule in a way, when these movies were kind of ruled the roost in movie theaters, kind of before the huge wave of Marvel came to kind of, the huge tsunami of Marvel came to like kind of clean out the theaters a little bit. And I kind of dug that. I kind of dug seeing this kind of big spectacle that didn't have necessarily like superpowers or superheroes. This movie is totally crazy and ridiculous, right? The story and the science and the logic in the story is just like completely bonkers off the wall. And I think the movie knows this, right? This movie doesn't really put up any pretenses like, this is going to happen someday, blah, 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 blah. This movie is about the moon, and we won't get into spoilers yet. The moon somehow is on a collision course with Earth, and we've got to save the planet. As you said, Will, I think the performances here are pretty good. I mean, John Bradley, right? We haven't really seen, other than Game of Thrones, I don't know if we've seen him kind of with such a large motion picture role yet, or at least I haven't. And I thought he held up pretty well. Patrick Wilson, sorry, I got to give him credit. This guy's like a hardworking dude when it comes to acting. Like, he's in a lot of movies that don't always get the critical, definitely not critical darlings, right? You've got the Conjuring movies, right? I think he's kind of the guy who's in a lot of the Conjuring movies and stuff like that. And here he comes in this movie. I don't think he's necessarily a man's man character. I think he's more like an everyman who used to be kind of a big deal astronaut, comes in this movie and does his thing. Yeah, so I had way more fun with this movie than I actually thought I was going to. This movie knew what it was. I knew what it was going in, but between the movie knowing what it was and me knowing what to expect, I really had a good time. So I would definitely recommend this. However, do not go in and try to, pick apart the science, and the logic of this movie and the plot points and how they get from A to B to C to D to saving the earth. It's just kind of bonkers. But I enjoyed seeing that unfold on the screen. Like, how are they going to get out of this? And you're right, Will. There were some special effects in the movie that I looked at and I'm like, ooh, that looked a little wonky. But some of the other stuff I thought was pretty fantastic for a movie. And there was a lot of it. This movie was a lot of action. A lot of chases, stuff crashing into other stuff. I thought the parts of the moon are, at least this isn't a spoiler because it's in the trailer, parts of the moon crashing into the earth. I thought that stuff looked pretty good. Yeah, for me it's a recommend, probably slightly stronger than Will, but you got to understand what you're getting yourself into.
Definitely makes sense. This movie is what I call a B-dam. A big dumb action movie, and it knows that it's a B-dam. It wants to be a B-dam, so B-dam, B-dam. I had a lot of fun with this movie, and I didn't think I was going to. Just from the trailer going in, I was like, ugh, this is going to be awful. This is going to be so schlocky. This is going to be such a painful experience, but I ended up having a really good time with it. It's not a great movie. I don't even know that I would say it's a particularly good movie. But for what it brings to the table, I think it's enjoyable, especially in this weird time that we're in right now, where there's not a lot of great movies out to see. We've been struggling to find things that, we both kind of want to go watch. And so, I think this is the first movie I got out of the house to see in like 3 weeks, after the January graveyard of films that go to die. So I don't know. I had a lot of fun. I think that John Bradley was really John Bradley here. I mean, we definitely had some essence of Samuel Tarly, but it was nice to see him outside of wearing a bunch of heavy furs that cloak every aspect of his body. I was like, oh, he actually has a body. That's interesting. What, Jim?
I was going to say, unlike you mentioned John Bradley, and I'm thinking about his character. I said, it's unlike the Godzilla versus Kong, and the new Ghostbusters movie. This movie knows what to do with its podcasters, right? He's like, it takes its podcast characters and actually does something with them that I thought was pretty cool. Yeah. Those other two movies totally fucked over the podcast hosts. So yeah, this one wins a point for doing podcasts right.
There you go. Always good to treat podcasters with respect and give them something meaty to work with.
That's right.
God damn it. So for me, I'll just sum up and then we can kind of move on with our discussion a little bit by saying this is a recommend for me if you like B-dams. If you're into big dumb action movies, if you think they're fun, if you like to just have some popcorn for your eyes and your ears, as well as eating actual popcorn, I think this movie is a fun romp. If you're looking for, high stakes drama and the best performances of the year, and why the fuck would you look for those things in a Roland Emmerich movie? You're probably not going to have a very good time with it. So there you go. Recommend from me, but conditionally.
Yeah, I one of the things I think that I don't know performance, box office performance wise, I don't know how this movie does, but it's kind of an original property, right? I at least for me, it feels like an original property, like it's not based on something that's out in the cultural world right now, and so it doesn't have the characters, it doesn't have the Spider-Mans and the comic book legacy and stuff like that. So it has to stand on its own and do its thing. It's not looking to set up, it's not. Hey, one thing that was refreshing to me anyway, this movie's not looking to set up a sequel, I don't think. We might argue whether there's stuff in there you could make a sequel out of. That's great. But I don't think this movie overtly is doing that. There's not a stinger in here that's setting you up for the next movie. And so I don't know. I give the movie credit for that, for being original and just being its own thing and being decently good at it.
And these types of movies really do exist in their own vacuum, and that's that's okay. You know, like that's the disaster movie like formula, right? You don't go like you don't necessarily go to one of these because of the star power. You can, you know, maybe you want to see, you know, Jake Gyllenhaal trudging through the snow, or The Rock, you know, like in a boat, like as a, you know, as the city sinks into the water or whatever, you know. But with the movie like this, you, especially with Roland Emmerich attached, I think it's more like you go for the spectacle, right? Like I would not say like, look, nothing against Patrick Wilson. I think he's you're right. He's a very good workman-like actor, and I think he does a good job in most of the things he's in. But I don't know that there's necessarily like a lot of people who are like, oh shit, I've got to go see that new Patrick Wilson like blockbuster movie. Like,
Yeah, that guy.
Like, yeah,
Gotta
he's
see him.
he's not that type of guy. He's the guy that when you see him show up and stuff, you're like, oh, okay, cool. But he's not, you know, he's not a box office draw. John Bradley is not a box office draw, maybe for our audience. But you know, I'm talking on a wide scale, and I would even argue that maybe even Halle Berry to a degree for this type of movie. You know, like you don't go to see like the new Halle Berry action movie. Certainly, you didn't when she was Catwoman. You know, so the reason you go to these movies is because you want the big and you want the loud, and that's part of what's fun about getting out of the house and going to these. You know, do I wish that it was a better version of what it was? Yes, but do I still appreciate that there's not a lot of these? So you know, so if this is what you want, this is what you get, and that's a perfectly fine way to look at it. Absolutely. So I think if you want something that's just kind of blow your senses out, maybe watch an IMAX. I'm guessing it's an IMAX. I don't know for sure, but it feels like it's an IMAX. This feels like an IMAX movie, right?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, Will, because when we were looking to see it this weekend, we have a couple of theater chains in town. One of them is fairly new here. It's called Galaxy, and that's where we ended up seeing it. And only because they had it on their programmed on their big DFX, you know, Limax screen, right?
Getting the D box.
It's not D box, but they just call it DFX, whatever. And then, but like the Cinemark thing here, I looked at the listings there, and what movie did they have on their biggest screen this weekend? Jackass Forever, right? And I'm like, that doesn't even make sense to me from a movie person. Like maybe from a popular, like you can fit more people in there, but like this movie is much, and I use this term very loosely here, this is a much more cinematic movie than probably the Jackass movie is. I'm not saying this is a, you know, beautifully cinematic movie, but it is more of a spectacle, big screen spectacle than something like Jackass would be. And so I could not understand why Cinemark had Jackass Forever in its. Of course, that's a studio thing, right? They make deals with these companies, and I'm like, oh, this is one I just want to tweet out to Cinemark. Like, what are you thinking?
I'm sure it had to do with. I know Jackass had a big. There was a lot of buzz. Like I know a lot of people that like that was the weekend event. You know, and
2-1 to this movie.
Yeah. And so like, would you like, you know, why on the biggest screen? I don't know necessarily about that, but I'm sure it does come to like the theater was banking on it being the spectacle. Plus you're right. Like a lot of these things are agreed upon like months and months and months in advance by, you know, in contracts, not necessarily based on some theater manager deciding what to pull sometimes, but not always.
Yeah. And there's people who probably want to see Johnny Knoxville's bare ass, you know, bleeding for her hurtling across the screen on a, you know, the back of a horse or something, whatever the fuck it is. But
I will say that the chasers and Chub for Chubs in my social media feeds have been wanting to see Jackass because of the big guy.
So the new big guy, the new big cast member. Yeah.
Because apparently he's like mostly naked throughout a lot of the movie, and you know.
Yeah.
So.
No. We got our John Bradley. We still got a little bit of love from this movie.
Well, fellas, what do you think about moving on into just some spoilers from Moonfall?
Yeah. Let's go.
Let's do it.
All right. Listen up, folks. Spoilers are about to become fair game. If you have not yet seen Moonfall and you value your virginal innocence, this is your time to step away. We aren't doing plugs this week, so if you need to step away, just come on back to the episode after you've had a chance to see the film. If you're listening through the magic of digital tape delay and you need to step away, Again, do the same thing. Just come back and listen once you're done. But spoilers are officially fair game. We'll see you later, Bobby Miller. So good to
Hi,
see
Bobby.
you.
Thanks for
Bye,
dropping
Bobby.
in.
Since we're talking about John Bradley and getting a little bit of love there, let's take that a couple steps further. Guys, we didn't get a shirtless scene, which is very sad.
Not exactly.
Well, he was in a robe, but he was all covered up.
But we did get a wet t-shirt.
But
right?
we got a wet white t-shirt scene, and we got to see that apparently John Bradley has a very nice hairy chest, which I was very excited about.
It's quite hairy. And that's
we also saw some tum-tum because his shirt was riding up in front. So there you go.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah.
Honest. Just
yeah.
Purely honest.
Well, you got me.
Okay. Take that scene out of the movie. Does it lose like a half star?
I think it does.
A little.
Yeah.
A little.
Or at least one of the stars loses a lot of its shine.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. I could have definitely used more, but
that would be a different movie.
Yeah.
If we could have had
Moonfall.
if we could have had shirtless Patrick Wilson and shirtless John Bradley having to share a bed in the hotel room because it's a crisis, that would have been even better.
Yeah.
Are you basically trying to recreate like Not in Front of My Salad with like the two of them and Halle Berry, which is something I don't know what that is, guys. I don't know.
Yeah, no idea what that is.
Yeah.
No.
Well, there's we would have liked to have seen more of that. The John Bradley shirtless or wet t-shirt or maybe even a shower scene. But with bigger guys, bigger people, not men or women, and anybody in movies. There's still a bit of a stigma around body size, and that sucks, right? It obviously sucks, but I think filmmakers recognize that audiences have a thing about body size, so they're not willing to go there. And I also think maybe some of the performers, the actors who might be of a larger body size, some, not all, are a little reticent to display, the great bodies that they have, even though they may be larger, right? That's a whole body image thing that we have. So I think that's why we don't see a lot of that, except in specific niche films. But yeah, I was happy with what we got. I was happy to see, like I said, that John Bradley, I think he appointed of himself pretty well in this movie, in a pretty heavy role. And I loved what the movie did with his character at the end of this film. He got to be part of the story and saving the planet, right? He was the guy who kind of had figured out what was really going on all along. It was kind of hokey how he got to be on the mission in the first place, obviously, right? And I'm sitting there like, okay, they got the space shuttle, it's on the pad. John Bradley's going to be on that thing. Who else is going to run the calculator?
Wait. So you're telling me that in a Roland Emmerich movie, they found a way to send a type character and the scientist who knew what it was all along into space?
Believe it or not,
that's nothing like Will Smith and Jeff.
They're totally unprepared, prepared, untrained, and it's great. But I mean,
what amazed me? What amazed me about that whole thing? So they had to use old spacesuits, right? That didn't have electronics in them, and they just happened to have a 50-year-old spacesuit laying around that would fit John Bradley.
Oh yeah, exactly. But they did show a scene where they're buckling him in, right, to the shuttle, and the guy's like, "This is going to be real tight," and he buckles it in, and I'm like, Brad and I both.
I've heard that line before.
Brad and I turned to each other. It's like, what? The space shuttle doesn't have seatbelt extenders? What the fuck is this?
They do, but you have to purchase an additional seat.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's how they get you.
And it just so happens that the shuttle that they fucking stole out of a museum, right, overnight, and somehow got it to a launch pad, was ready to go for a flight, except for one engine, of course, which leads us into this movie's version of tension. Are they going to escape Earth's gravity with two engines? I don't know. It was just really goofy stuff. For a minute there, I'm like, he's gonna have his son on board, and his son's gonna be the hero or something like that. But yeah, at the end when John Bradley got to basically take the action and blow up the bomb or whatever it was to kind of and we'll explain this, but basically take out the force that was destroying the moon and causing it to fall. And he basically dies at the end, right, of the film. And that was pretty cool that this movie got to display its stakes at the end, but then also kind of backpedal them a little bit with some, like, I don't know, science fiction-y rebirth, I guess, or like he I don't know, he gets to live forever and be with his family, and I thought that was kind of sweet, actually, the way they did that.
Well, you mentioned that this was like its own thing and not really trying to set up a sequel or anything. I actually kind of disagree with that a little bit, because I think the purpose of like digitizing the John Bradley character's consciousness into the moon, the moon program that greets him is like, we have work to do, ...
Yeah.
So it almost makes me think Moonfall 2 is going to be
Electric Boogaloo.
a thing that they want to happen. Maybe more of those nano machine AI gone wrong clouds show up, and I don't know, but
I don't know.
Yeah, Moonfall 2 is essentially like AI John Bradley flying the moon directly into Uranus. Let's say that.
Yeah, I'm down. As long as John's flying it.
So I'll tell you, like, where the things that we're talking about here, they're all features and not bugs, right? Like, I don't need my badam. I don't need that. I don't need it to make sense. Like, I need it to like make sense, at least in terms of like
its own story.
Within its own story. Like, engine is having trouble, engine falls out, it makes some stress. They make it that's all consistent within the logic of these movies, which is designed to kind of stretch for like, the big like set pieces. That's totally fine. What I didn't care for as much about it was I think that compared to a lot of these movies, I really found myself not caring about the B plot. I think mainly because the B plot, I thought the son character, Charlie Plummer, who is wonderful. Spontaneous is one of the best movies that no one's seen, and he is so fucking good in that. I liked him, but this movie went out of its way to make me not like a Michael Pena performance, but it pulled it off. Like, I did not like that. I didn't like the whole, like, there's this whole thing where he's a Lexus dealer, and that's what I was joking about up front. And there's a part where they have to like get away from these like roving bandits. And so he's like, don't worry, I know what to do. And this Lexus pulls up, and it's like a fucking commercial as it pulls up, and you can perfectly see the logo. And they get in, and the gravity is ripping things up, and people are shooting at them. And don't worry, I know what to do. And he pushes the turbo button on the Lexus or whatever he does, and it starts like outperforming all of these things. It was the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen in one of these movies, and it didn't match the logic of this world, because it felt like it was like a video game cutscene, not because of the way the CGI looked, but because of just you knew exactly that this Lexus was going to make it through without any problems, because it was designed to make it through without any problems. That part felt like a waste of my time. I need to go back to space and see what's going on with them.
Yeah, well, you're right. And I'm glad you brought this up. All these movies have this kind of B plot where there's like, apart from the main action, there's something going on like back on Earth with the guy's family or whatever. And that's exactly what you have here. Look, Charlie Plummer, the whole movie, I'm looking at him like, I know this guy. I like this guy. What? Oh, yeah, he was in Lean on Pete and Spontaneous. And the guy's really good. I'm like, what's he doing in this movie? Of course, Michael Pena, we know. Definitely not playing a comedy part here.
No.
And I did like that about this movie, that I don't think there really was a character that was strictly there to crack jokes, right? And to this movie's credit, a lot of movies do this. Even some of the biggest superhero blockbusters going have that character, and it kind of drives me crazy. This movie didn't do that, and but yes, the B plot here is not so great. You don't really care so much about these characters, especially the John Pena character. I had to pee during the movie about 3/4 of the way through, so I get up at a time where I think, okay, the action's kind of. I didn't really want to go. I had to go bad, but I didn't want to leave. I came back, and Brad's like, John Pena character just died. And I'm like, oh, great. Now we can get back on with the movie. I'm like, I wasn't a fan of his character, and I really had nothing to do with John Pena or his performance. His character was very caricaturish as the stepdad, right? I think that's what his role was in this one.
Well, and I was half expecting him to pop back up at the end, like, "Hey guys, the air came back, and I woke up. I'm fine."
And again, this movie kind of stuck by its things. In another movie, that's exactly what would have happened. He would have come walking out of the ash cloud, like, oh, good thing you guys didn't forget about me, whatever, And we didn't get that. So again, just another small reason I thought this movie added up to a plus for me.
I'm hearing from Big Tom. We know and love Big Tom. Yep, here in Tucson. Big fan of that guy. He says that I apparently remind him a little bit of John Bradley, which is a huge compliment. Thank you, Big Tom. I promise that if I'm ever in a motion picture, I will take my shirt off and be seen by whoever wants or needs to see a big guy.
That's already happened
in a drama movie. Well, not in a Roland Emmerich film.
No, it hasn't happened in a Roland Emmerich film. It's happened in a few small films I can think of.
Yeah, available for streaming now.
Not on Disney Plus. Samwise in the chat says, "Take more than the shirt off." Let's talk more about this on MBP After Dark, if that's ever a thing.
Yeah, I think that's a different conversation.
That's the podcast where we're all in our underwear podcasting and just shooting the shit.
Yeah. Episode 1's coming out, asterisk soon.
So I did want to talk a little bit about the mechanics. I know we have a little bit of time left, but the mechanics of this movie. I'm also glad that this movie, as written, was not necessarily a what's the word I'm looking for when movies try to relay a social commentary or like a warning of environmental disaster. This thing was totally from science fiction-y, outer space, alien technology kind of angle that this movie took, and thankfully didn't try to do like, well, the Earth is out of orbit because we're just. The moon is out of orbit because we're destroying the Earth's atmosphere, and that slightly changed the Earth's orbit and the moon's orbit and is causing this disaster. That could have been, in my mind, probably much worse to try to fold that into a movie like this and take away from just what is it? DA, what is it?
Be damned.
Be damned, right.
Big dumb action movie.
Or the
Be damned. Yeah. Be damned.
But it talks about this intergalactic war that's been set up between machine AI technology created by humans that has here's a trope for you, that has kind of tried to take over, if you will, the humans, and has created this intergalactic war, basically setting up these fake moons. The humans have created these fake moons to, I don't know exactly what. I've lost track of what the hell it's doing.
Humanity, thousands of years ago, created these superstructures that were
Yes.
seeded with the DNA of humanity to go out into the galaxy, find new planets that could sustain human life, and rebuild the human race.
Like a Genesis project.
Right. But our moon was the only one that made it before the machines like destroyed all the others. So we are humanity's last best hope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've never seen that before.
Yeah.
Nope. Never. Not at all.
Yeah.
It's you can kind of go either way with these things, right? Like, it's for me, it's not even a matter of if they like, I prefer it that it did or did not do a social message. I think it's just it comes down to execution, right? Like, I've seen some movies within the last let's say within the last few months that did a social message that I agree with, that I didn't like the movie because of the execution.
Yes.
I won't talk about what that movie is, but we might be talking about it on our Oscar coverage.
That must be a much
episode.
better. Well, that's a much, much, much better movie than this because
It got an Oscar
nominated for-
nod.
It's nominated for Best Picture, so it's got to be fantastic.
I think the message of that is important. And if there had been a message built into this one and it was executed well, cool. But judging by kind of like what the movie's intentions were, I don't think it would have been executed well. It would have felt ham-fisted. So I think by that logic, like, I'm glad they didn't do it. Again, not because I don't want to see that, but just because I don't want to see it in this movie from this filmmaker right now, because it would not have felt like it wouldn't have felt genuine, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah, there are
definitely.
projects right now. There's one on TV called Station 11, which I have not checked out because it feels to me, and it could be excellent. I've heard excellent things about it, but I can't say. But it feels like it hits really too close to home right now, because we're still in this pandemic, and the movie is about pandemic stuff, I think. So it's hard, and sometimes you need something escapist like this, but still fun, and that's what we got.
It serves a role, maybe not for everybody, right? But it's there to be a B dam, and if B dams make you happy, there you go. I mean, we've had B dams for over 100 years. You know what I mean? Okay, here we go. What is your favorite B dam of all time?
Ooh,
I'm very curious about this.
big dumb action movie.
Give me a second, because I'm trying to remember.
Well, probably one of the Godzilla movies for me.
Okay.
Oh, do those count? Yeah. Okay, that changes the equation quite a bit.
I guess it counts.
Yeah, if those count, then I feel like Godzilla.
No, I know what yours is.
Easily hits. If
I could tell you what yours is, probably.
what would you say?
Pacific Rim.
I mean, Pacific. If we're counting like kaiju movies and stuff like that, then yeah. I don't know. I mean, Independence Day is. I think Independence Day is a better version of the dumb of this movie, if that makes sense. Like, and I think that it's like Independence Day, when you go back and watch it, it's not a great movie, right? But it hits like all of like the dumb choices. It feels so fucking sincere that you can't help but enjoy it for what it is, right? And I think that's where Independence Day does a little bit stronger. So yeah, maybe Independence Day.
Okay.
If I'm taking like kaiju, if I'm really just thinking about like the pure grain of what the Badam is, like maybe that.
I'm looking at a list of Roland Emmerich movies. The Day After Tomorrow, that was a pretty good movie, right? Is that the one with Tom Cruise that they renamed? No.
No. Day After Tomorrow was like
the Frozen Earth one.
Frozen one.
Right.
Yeah, no, never mind. Never mind.
Question: does the Poseidon Adventure count as a B dam?
Yes, and I think that it's probably in the discussion pretty up there too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's a favorite of mine.
I would say that's my favorite all-time B dam. The only reason I ask is it's a little not as dumb as some of the other B dams out there. Like, you know what I mean? It's a little.
It's got a very specific. Yeah, it's got a very specific focus, right? It's kind of a mission to get off of a capsized, ocean luxury liner. So.
You know which one's like surprisingly pretty good that would be worth people checking out too is there is a it's on Netflix. It was released on Netflix, and it's a Chinese film called The Wandering Earth. And it was a big disaster movie where basically like on that one, like the sun's died out, so they put these like
engines
boosters
on the
on
Earth.
Earth and like
Yes.
go off, and like so it's all about them like trying to survive like out on this search for a new sun, and after like all this stuff. And it's filled with a bunch of like dumb moments through them because that's what things for. But it all feels like pretty fun, and it's like a little bit lower budget, so like they have to like make do with what they can on the effects. But I think because of that, it feels scrappier in places. I don't know.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah. Well, we have definitely thrown out some be damn ideas. If you're into those, feel free to pick up Independence Day or a Godzilla movie, or go watch the Poseidon Adventure, or go see Moonfall. While you can, while it's in theaters.
Yeah.
It's great to see on a big screen with great audio. It's interesting, Jim. So Moonfall and Spider-Man No Way Home both tied last weekend at $9.8 million.
Yeah, and Spider-Man's been out for 2 months.
2 months,
3 months. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Part of it is like Moonfall's name is. I think the worst thing Moonfall had going for it was that name feels like a movie that you've already seen before, right? Like, it feels like Skyfall, it feels like Moon, it feels like Moonraker, it feels like like there's a lot of different things in there that feel like it. So I wonder if that hurt too.
I don't know.
Possibly.
Not
Maybe
sure.
onto something there. Yeah.
Well, fellas, it has been a great conversation as always. Do you have any final thoughts on Moonfall before we wrap up for this week?
I don't think I have anything else to say about it. Nothing comes to mind.
Okay.
Will?
We barely mentioned Halle Berry except for the fact that she is in this, but yeah, she's in this.
To be fair, I think she did an okay job.
I think she did an okay
fine.
job. She just
I love Halle
She
Berry.
did a really good job with, I think, a character that was probably the character that the film cared the least about of the primary characters. So, nothing against her. It was just like the film just
I do want to say, although I thought the opening scene, which by the way, if you're really interested and you want to check out the 5 minutes opening scene of this movie, I think it's available on YouTube for free. I think people can go watch it.
Cool.
It remind you though of another space movie we saw called Gravity.
Yeah.
It's very, very similar. Although, even though I thought this was effective, it was very derivative of the opening of Gravity for me.
Is Gravity an Eldam? Because it's but just like tiny stakes, just for one person.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for everyone who tuned in to hang out with us this week in the live chat. We had a few folks jumping on for our discussion. I didn't think we'd have too many from Moonfall, to be honest. We could have reviewed Jackass instead. Maybe it would have gotten more butts and seats, but I don't know. I couldn't bring myself to do it, guys. Is that bad?
I'm actually
different.
Yeah, different strokes. I'm
Different strokes,
glad we
different.
selected Moonfall, at least for me.
It was a fun chat, and look, two roads diverged in the forest, but both of them would have been fun, and I don't regret the one that we chose.
Yeah. Right. Well, that's good. That's good. All right. Well, Jim, if folks want to chat with you between now and the next time we record, where can they interact?
You can find me on Twitter, where right now there's a lot of talk about movies and Oscars and end of the year stuff on Twitter at JJP Out West. My initials are JJP, and then Out West. That's where you'll find me on Twitter, and then on Facebook under my name, my real name, Jim Pugliafico.
How do we know it's your real name?
It is. Who would make up a fake name like that? Like, seriously.
Someone who doesn't want to be found.
Yeah, that's a little sus.
You'll never find me. You don't even know how to spell me. So there.
All right. Thanks so much, Jim. Will, how about you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Whatever Cove. You can find me on Facebook. I'm William Lindis there, as I am in real life. You can find me on Letterboxd. That's where I rank and review films, make lists and stuff. You should too. Give me a follow there, and find me on TikTok, where it's it's mostly just memes and thirst traps and shirtless dancing and shit like that. I'm at the Movie Bear there.
All right, Will, thanks so much. FYI, Will, Big Tom says he loves the colors you have in your background.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, normally normally I have the I've changed my computer or direction around. So normally I have like posters and stuff behind me. So now you can actually see the wall. So yay, thank you, Tom.
Reminds me of cherry blossom time in Japan.
In the spring in Japan.
Get
Except
on
they're
my
butterflies. That
Oh,
will
they're
eat your face. That will eat your face.
Alien butterflies, alien tech butterflies.
That came from the moon. Anyway, you can find me on Facebook. I'm the Brad Harris that likely has Chub Chaser Bear friends in common with you. You can also find me on Letterboxd and Twitter at iBradPro. Thanks so much for hanging out with us this week. We love and adore all of you, and we're looking forward to seeing y'all next time. Goodbye, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.